آه، السلام عليكم أعزائي الطلبة. نكمل موضوع infections of the nervous system. وصلنا بالمحاضرة السابقة إلى subdural empyema. The cause is infection, bacterial or sometimes fungal infection of bones and sinuses. The complications include mass effect, thrombophlebitis of the bridging veins that cross the subdural space, resulting in venous occlusion and infarction of the brain. Clinically, symptoms include those referable to the source of the infection. In addition, in most patients, there is fever with headache and neck stiffness, and they may develop focal neurologic signs, lethargy, and coma. The CSF profile is similar to that seen in brain abscess. Extradural abscess is commonly associated with osteomyelitis, often arises from an adjacent focus of infection, such as sinusitis or surgical procedure. When the process occurs in the spinal epidural space, it may cause spinal cord compression and constitute a neurological emergency. Well, now we come to chronic bacterial meningoencephalitis. One of the chronic bacterial infection of the nervous system is tuberculosis. Patients with tuberculous meningitis usually have symptoms of headache, malaise, mental confusion, and vomiting. There is only a moderate CSF pleocytosis made up of mononuclear cells or a mixture of polymorphonuclear and mononuclear cells. The protein level is elevated, often strikingly so, and the glucose content typically is moderately reduced or normal. The most common pattern of involvement is a diffuse meningoencephalitis. On microscopic examination, there are mixtures of lymphocytes, plasma cells, and macrophages. Florid cases show well-formed granulomas, often with caseous necrosis and giant cells. Arteries may show obliterative and arteritis, and organisms can often be seen with acid-fast stains. Another manifestation of disease is the development of a single or often multiple well-circumscribed intraparenchymal mass called tuberculoma, which may be associated with meningitis. A tuberculoma may be up to several centimeters in diameter, causing significant mass effect. On microscopic examination, there is usually a central core of caseous necrosis surrounded by a typical tuberculous granulomatous reaction. Calcification may occur in inactive lesions. Complications include arachnoid fibrosis, which may produce hydrocephalus, obliterative and arteritis, which may produce arterial occlusion and infarction of underlying brain. Because the process involves the spinal cord subarachnoid space, spinal roots may also be affected. Now we come to another subject of chronic infection regarding the central nervous system is the neurosyphilis. Neurosyphilis is the tertiary stage of syphilis and occurs in only about 10% of patients with untreated infection. The major forms include meningovascular neurosyphilis, paretic neurosyphilis, and tabes dorsalis. Regarding meningovascular neurosyphilis, it is a chronic meningitis involving the base of the brain and variably also the cerebral convexities and the spinal leptomeninges. There may be an associated obliterative and arteritis accompanied by a distinctive perivascular inflammatory reaction rich in plasma cells and lymphocytes. Cerebral gammas, plasma-rich mass lesions, may also occur in relation to meninges and extending into the cerebral hemispheres, diencephalon, or spinal cord. Paretic neurosyphilis, it is caused by invasion of the brain by Treponema pallidum and is clinically manifested as insidious but progressive loss of mental and physical functions with mood alterations terminating in severe dementia. On microscopic examination, there is loss of neurons, proliferations of microglia, gliosis, iron deposits. The spirochetes can be at times demonstrated in tissue sections There is often an associated damage to ependymal lining and proliferation of subependymal glia called granular epididymitis. Regarding tabes dorsalis, it is the result of damage by the spirochete to the sensory nerves in the dorsal roots, which produces impaired joint position sense and resultant ataxia, loss of pain sensation leading to skin and joint damage, lightening pains, absence of deep tendon reflexes. On microscopic examination, there is loss of both axons and myelin in the dorsal roots, with pallor and atrophy in the dorsal columns of the spinal cord. Organisms are not demonstrable in cord lesions. We have what's called Lyme disease or neuroborreliosis. Lyme disease is caused by spirochete Borrelia burgdorferi, which is transmitted by tick. Neurological symptoms are highly variable and include aseptic meningitis, facial nerve palsies, mild encephalopathy, polyneuropathies. Now I come to the subject of viral meningoencephalitis. It is a parenchymal infection of the brain, often associated with meningeal inflammation, sometimes associated with the involvement of the spinal cord. The most characteristic histologic feature of viral encephalitis are perivascular and parenchymal mononuclear cell infiltrates, including lymphocytes, plasma cells, and macrophages, glial cell reactions, including the formation of microglial nodules, and neuronophagy. Evidence of viral infection: the presence of viral inclusion bodies, identification of viral pathogens by electron microscopy, by immunohistochemistry, or by PCR. There are certain features of central nervous system viral infection, including nervous system tropism. There are viruses that that infect specific cells, such as oligodendrocytes, and that are preferentially involve particular areas of the brain, such as medial temporal lobes or limbic system. Latent viruses like herpes zoster, systemic viral infection, which may be followed by an immune-mediated disease, intrauterine viral infection, which may cause congenital malformation, such as rubella, and a slowly progressive degenerative disease syndrome may follow many years after a viral illness, what's called post-encephalitic Parkinsonism. Arthropod-borne virus or viral encephalitis, a neutrophilic pleocytosis that rapidly converts to lymphocytosis. Regarding herpes simplex virus type 1, it produces an encephalitis that occurs in any age group, but it's most common in children and young adults. Regarding type 2, usually manifests in adults as meningitis. Severe encephalitis develops in as many as 50% of neonates born by vaginal delivery to women with active primary infection, genital infection. Varicella zoster virus, herpes zoster, may cause an acute encephalitis with numerous sharply circumscribed lesions characterized by demyelination followed by necrosis. Cytomegalovirus, this infection of the nervous system occurs in fetuses and immune-compromised individuals. Regarding poliomyelitis, it causes a subclinical or mild gastroenteritis in non-immunized individuals, and it secondarily invades the nervous system in a small fraction of vulnerable population. Regarding CNS infection, it manifests initially with meningeal irritation and a CSF picture of aseptic meningitis. The disease may progress no further or advance to involve the spinal cord with loss of motor neurons to produce a flaccid paralysis with muscle wasting and hyporeflexia in corresponding regions of the body. In the acute disease, death can occur from paralysis of the respiratory muscles, and myocarditis sometimes complicates the clinical course. A late neurologic syndrome can develop in patients affected by poliomyelitis who had been stable during intervening years, post-polio syndrome. Regarding rabies, Rabies, it is a severe encephalitis transmitted to humans by a bite of a rabid animal, a dog, or various wild animals that form natural reservoirs, or exposure to certain bat species. On microscopic examination, there is widespread neurological degeneration and an inflammatory reaction. We have what's called Negri bodies, which is the pathognomonic microscopic findings, and these are cytoplasmic round to oval eosinophilic inclusions that can be found in pyramidal neurons of the hippocampus and Purkinje cells of the cerebellum. Clinically, there is long incubation period, commonly between 1 to 3 months, non-specific symptoms of malaise, headache and fever, but the conjunction of these symptoms with local paresthesia around the wound is diagnostic. Extraordinary CNS excitability, the slightest touch is painful, with violent motor responses progressing to convulsions. Contracture of the pharyngeal musculature and swelling produce foaming at the mouth, which may create hydrophobia. There is meningismus, and as the disease progresses, flaccid paralysis. Death occurs usually from respiratory center failure. Thank you very much, and we will continue in the next lecture.